Hi, we'd like to thank you for tuning in to the World Boxing Review radio show. My name is Aaron Snowell. They call me the Hall of Fame trainer of champions. Have we traveled the world for past, present, and future stars? And coming to you live from Tampa, Florida, we'd like to welcome Mark Irwin, who's vice president and vice president of the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame and the Buffalo Hall of Fame, into the show. We'll be talking about Rocky Marciano as we profile him, a former great undefeated heavyweight champion. Welcome into the show, Mark. And also,
Thank
we have a rising star in boxing as we deal with the past, the present, and the future stars, Javier Mitchell, who just coming fresh off a victory at the Junior Olympics to become number one in his weight class. And also something unique, his mother, who's his mother, not only his mother, but his trainer too. So we're going to hop into that, man. So let's get right into it, Deb. We're going to go with you first. I
Okay.
want to ask you,
hmm
how did your son start fighting?
He started at the age of 4. He was training at Rock Future Boxing with Coach Johnson. One day he woke up at the age of 4 and said, "Mommy, can you take me to the gym?" And his father and I called around, and the only gym that would accept him at that age was at the Future Boxing in Rochester, New York. So that's where he started at the age of 4.
Wow, what a great age, man! 4 years old. So you're at the Junior Olympic. How old is Javier now?
He's 16 now.
Oh, he's 16, man. You
Yeah.
you already got a wealth of experience
Oh
as
yeah.
a fighter. So we can understand why you're number one in the country. But explain his journey and how many fights does Javier Mitchell have?
Oh God. He has over 100 amateur fights, over 100 amateur bouts. He has 2 books. He already filled 1 book up. So if I had to guess, approximately 120 fights. He started competing at the age of 8. That's the age they can compete. Um, Coach Johnson, unfortunately, at 7 years old, passed away, but pulled him to the side and told him, "You'll be a world champion one day. Keep working at it." And that day, he actually passed away after he told him that. So that was kind of hard for all of us. After that, we went and worked. I took Javier to another gym with Timothy Nolan. He's a USA Boxing high performance coach with the Olympians at the Olympic Trial Center and training center. And so he worked with Javier for about a couple years before he took that position. Then he took the position, so he left Rochester. Then after that, I kind of was traveling around trying to get him something to coach something. It was the pandemic, and we started traveling to Philadelphia. Met a coach there who worked with him for a year or so, and because of his, he had personal family issues that he had to take care of, so he wasn't able to coach him no more. And Javier finally said to me, "Mommy, you know what? I think you can do this. I want you to coach me." So I've been coaching Javi. Well, I've been doing since he was 4 a lot, but I finally took the step to be the head coach at the age of Javi was 12 years old.
All right, we're going to jump now. Bring Javier Mitchell in, man. Number one, congratulations
thank you.
for a job well done for being number one last year and being number one this year, man. How you feeling, champ?
I
Fresh
feel
off a
amazing.
Junior Olympic win.
I feel amazing. I feel good. I feel real good.
Yeah, well, since your mother was on here talking, man, what does it feel like, to have your mother train you and school you not only in life but in boxing, man? That's something unique in itself when it comes to boxing.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is really something unique. It feels amazing. It feels good. I feel like we have that connection. This is the best connection I ever had as far as a coach wise. So it just peer connection. So we just get it. We get each other a lot. We flow good, and that's really it.
Now, I want to ask you a question. Now, I know I was young a young man in boxing. And sometimes when I got hard headed, my mother used to take her belt off and spank me on the butt for a little bit. Does your mother have to whoop you into shape or whoop you to get going, to motivate you? Explain some of that kind of relationship.
Nah, she doesn't have to do that. I just feel like I just know when it's time to work. When I see that face, when I see that little face, I just know, okay, I gotta step it up. Okay, I gotta do this. Okay, I gotta do that. So our relationship is really good. We connect. So it's no bad tensions, no nothing. It's always good energy around me and my mom for sure.
Okay, now, just coming from the Junior Olympics, how many fights did you have to fight? Now, you're in a different weight class. I believe last year it was 134, no, 138, and this year is
Yeah,
145. Correct me
yeah.
if I'm wrong or right, you know?
No, you're correct. You're correct.
Okay, you were so you won this year at 145, correct?
Yes,
And last year was 138 you won.
yes.
Okay. How many fights this year did you have to fight in order to win in the B champion?
I had to fight 3 times.
Three times, man.
Yes.
So all of those fighters that were out there at this Junior Olympic tournament from all over the country,
Hmm.
you're the number one guy. That's really something and amazing and a great accomplishment on your part, man. That's
Thank.
something special. And congratulations, but not just a junior Olympian you are. You also won the nationals too. How many times you win the nationals with 100 and some fights?
I'm an 8-time national champion.
How many?
8 times.
8 times. Wow, man, that's impressive. 8-time national champion. And that's a huge tournament like that, man, where fighters come from all over the United States and they merge to have one champion. For you to do it 8 years in a row, become champion 8 times, just amazing defeat in itself. Have you
Thank.
won the Golden Gloves or anything like that?
Oh no, I'm too young to fight in the Golden Gloves. But
Okay.
the tournaments I have won, I won silver gloves 3 times, nationals once, I won Junior Olympics once, and I won the Easterns and 2 Easterns.
Wow. Boy, you're just putting together the winning all of those tournaments. And maybe you've seen this young man who, Joseph, they call him Jojo Akawande. He's been on the show many times. He won out there too. Now, you
And I
guys
forgot.
travel with the, huh?
I said I forgot to include. I won the international tournament as well.
Okay. Now, do y'all go to the Olympic Training Center? I heard your mother mention that. And when you train, do you train with the Olympic team? How does that work?
So I never been. My mom has, but recently I have got invited to train with the youth team to be a training partner. So I can't wait for that. That's gonna be my first time there.
Wow. That's really impressive for you to be going like that. I'm going to bring your mother back in, but I want to talk a little bit to you and your mother about what are further goals that you're looking to accomplish in the game of boxing.
So my goals is to become a gold medal Olympian. So that's for amateur wise. As far as pro, I'm trying to be one of the best pros ever, be in the Hall of Fame, and just be some be someone that people look up to.
Wow, that's really good. Since you
Thank you.
mentioned the Hall of Fame, Mark, who is the vice president of the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame, Mark, the
Yes.
Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame this year is recognizing this young man. Talk a little bit about that.
Yes, we are. Javier is our amateur boxer of the year for 2025, and that'll be on September 20th in Rochester. And it's great. He's We had Jerry Johnson last year. And of course, we had El Gallo the year before. So we've had some really good amateur boxers of the year through the years. Push-Up Frazier was Rochester Amateur Boxer of the Year, and he fought for a world championship against Winky Wright for the junior middleweight title. And that was actually Winky Wright's first championship, and he won it. That was on ESPN against Push-Up Frazier. My son Theo was Amateur Boxer of the Year, and Theo was two-time. Does he? You work with him in the gym a little bit, Javier?
No, not really.
Yeah. When you were going to Pennsylvania, did he go? Because I remember during the pandemic, Theo was running down to Pennsylvania quite a bit because they were having fights down there when they weren't having them up here. Did you?
Yeah, I think he was going with a guy named Kenny from Pennsylvania. Yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, we see Theo a lot in the gym though.
Yeah. Are you going to the fights tonight in Hamburg?
No, I won't be going.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah.
look, Javier and Deborah, it's just a amazing accomplishment to see this kind of unique team that you in bond that you have formed with your son. Just talk about the training part, his road work and stuff like that. His sparring and things like that. How does it go for you and how does it work? Talk a little bit about those things of training.
So as far as training, usually when we're not getting ready for a tournament, he's gotten to the point where we can't get any match bouts usually locally. If so, we have to travel 13 hours. I think the last match bout we got was in Tennessee. It's very hard. The kid's kind of known, so it's hard to get match bouts. But besides that, when we're not training for a tournament, that's where we usually get our fights. We're slowing things down. Usually just working on basic fundamentals. You can't go wrong with sharpening those things up. And eyes and strength. A lot of strength and conditioning when we're not when we're not getting ready for the tournament. Now the 6-week camp, I run a 6-week camp when we get ready for the tournaments. It's very intense. He starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. He trains 3 times a day. We do running in the morning, school of boxing, film study during the day. He goes to school. He comes out of school, strength and conditioning. After strength and conditioning, he tries to get a nap, eat meals in between, and then boxing at night. So that's how we get ready for the tournaments. As far as sparring, we've been sparring this last training camp. We've been sparring Bryce Mills and Messiah Miles. So 2 pro boxers, talented pro boxers. So that they've helped out for this tournament. Because the pace is a little slower being a pro, I make sure that Javier's pace is still a little higher than theirs and keeping up with the 3 to 5 second attack and trusting his defense at the same time. Other than that, it's hard to get sparring locally. So we travel to get sparring. We go to Philadelphia, Ohio, DC, Headbangers. We go everywhere pretty much to try to get some good work in when we can. And that's pretty much it that I can think of.
Yeah. Well, Deborah, you also trained Algeria,
I did, yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, and she last year when I got inducted into the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame, she got an award. So you're doing a great job with your fighters to take them fighters. People think it's easy, but to take them to tournaments and to win and to become number one and to become champion, it's a difficult feat. Is because there's a combination of the following factors. It just ain't conditioning. It's the mental work. It's the preparation. It's how you eat. And that's what you're saying with these type of regimens that you're taking them through are right on the cutting edge of boxing. And that's why you're getting the results that you want. And I want to congratulate you, number one, as being a trainer. Number two, as being a female, because I know females in boxing as being a trainer and a cut person or a manager, is very tough because a lot of people feel that you can't compete on a certain level
Mhm.
with the best of them that doing it. And hats off to you. You're proving uh, them all wrong as you continue to bring excellent fighters to the game and let them be on the top of their game. And your son is a prime example of your wit and grit when it comes to boxing.
Thank you.
Man, Javier, let me tell you, you know, to be number one, two different weight classes, uh, last year to this year, man, that's a monumental defeat in any sport. You
Thank
know, because sometimes people can do good at one sport, one weight class, they move up to another weight class, they can't do it well. But your poetry in motion, and you're something to work. What do you feel about all that?
I felt good. I'm just happy that I'm number one. Basically in two weight classes. It's like that's history. That's something I never really see frequently. So I'm just happy about that.
Well, in style wise, what kind of style would you say you have?
Uh, my style, I like the box for sure, but I know how to fight in the inside. People think because I'm tall, I got long arms, I can't fight in the inside. So I know how to really do both, but my favorite style, I like the box more.
Well, how's your punching power?
Oh, I think my punching power is up there for sure.
Uh-huh. How's your body attack?
Good, very good
Oh, okay. Because a lot of guys like to headhunt, but they don't like to snatch that body where
for
it
sure.
tells how you've been living and what you've been eating and what you've been doing. And it seems like you do all right with it. That's why you're sitting at number one.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah. Well,
I'd like to. I'm sorry. Can I just chime in with one thing here? You asked about the punching power, and I think the record kind of speaks for itself. You know, if you know amateur boxing, you know you're still 16, and now you're not old enough to fight in the Golden Gloves yet, and yet 20% of your bouts have been stoppages. And you know, I actually, to me, I can't think of another boxer I remember that anywhere near that. A lot of guys, you know, very good fighters, win championships, everything else never stop. You know, never have a stoppage. Or if they do, it's because of a nosebleed or something that can't, be stopped. I mean, 20%, that's really remarkable out here. And
Thank you.
yeah, yes, sir.
yes,
Yeah.
hey, Mark, you know,
Yes.
a lot of boxers are becoming on the top echelon of the sport from Rochester. Talk a little bit about that, Mark. You know, you're vice president of the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame and Buffalo Boxing Hall of Fame. The boxing community up there, they're really producing some great things up there,
Yeah.
and Deborah's part of that, and Javier. Talk about some of the great ones that are coming through different programs up there.
Well, I think you could say our last three amateur boxers of the year are still, had El Gallo, Mr. Jimenez, 3 years ago now, is still very hopeful about the Olympics, and he's still um, very active. And then you've got Algeria Johnson, last year's Rochester Amateur Boxer of the Year, and the first female. You know, Deb, I was just thinking of that. Congratulations to you. 2 years in a row, you know, one of your fighters got the Amateur Boxer of the Year. That's quite a thing. I
Thank
think
you.
yeah, that really is remarkable. You know, we honored Robert Johnson. I'm trying to think, probably 10, 12 years ago. You know, Mr. J.
Oh,
Yeah, Mr. J. And yeah, and I knew. Well, I worked more with Lord because I was more involved in the officiating end of things. But
okay.
yeah, so Lord and I worked. Actually, Lord was chief of officials of the Niagara
Oh,
district.
wow.
Yeah, he
Okay.
was. Yeah, Lord
Wow.
was chief for a while, and he was a very good. I would say when I was chief, I leaned on him a lot. Actually,
Nice.
yeah, he's a good man. And actually, we both got in the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame the same year, 2007. Lord Johnson and I did. So that was yeah. So you're bringing back a lot of memories. But and there's some other. Actually, the
Yeah,
ones fighting.
Charles the Natural Murray, who's a
Yes,
trainer, former IBF champion. September 25th, after Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame, he's
20th.
going into the Atlantic City Boxing Hall of Fame. And
Oh
what a
yeah.
great champion Charles the Natural Murray was, man. So Rochester's really kicking it out, and looks like it's the year of champion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I'd say so. I don't remember a time really where you're right, where Western New York has produced so many good amateur boxers all at once. Usually you might have one or two sometimes, and sometimes you don't have any. Honestly, that I can remember one year, Don Simpkin, he brought about 20 guys out to the ringside one year, and I can remember somebody asking me if there was any potential medalists in there. And I actually had to answer, no, I don't think so. I said possibly one, and that was Brandon Williams. I said possibly Brandon Williams, and he got the bronze. He came in third, and so I called it right on the money. I thought, I saw one, because I've been to enough national tournaments, I officiated enough of them. You can pretty much see what everybody's got, and I thought maybe Brandon can compete. None of the other ones that went out there that year could, and I don't think that that's really a knock on anything. It's just you're talking about the top level here, and we've got 3 kids in Rochester right now that have fought and succeeded.
Well, I think, Mark,
level, so,
we got a gold medalist sitting right here with us,
I think so too.
And I think possibly 3 or 4. Well, to make it there, number one, to be number one, and also, bruh, dreams only come true if you believe that they do. You got to dream a little while, and you got to work hard and make it happen. And I see that your mother trainer here has got you on the point of working hard, doing the right thing to accomplish those type of goals. Is 2028, which is the next Olympics, is that in your viewpoint, Javier?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Are some of those fighters? What are some of the fighters that are on your pinpoint list that you feel that you may have to meet or something in international tournaments? Have you and your mother looked that far for international competition?
I'm not gonna say we really looked that far. We have got the experience before, so we kind of understand how international fighters fight. Fought a boy from Canada. I just at the Junior Olympics, I fought a boy from Alaska. So we have experienced that international style, and we know what to do against it for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So, Deborah,
Yes.
I think with this type of accomplishment, somewhere along the line, someone should give you Trainer of the Year. You deserve it, outright deserve it.
Thank you.
To bring that to the table, it's a difficult task for any trainer, but to be a female in this business to do that 2 years in a row is hats off to you, and God bless you. And I hope somewhere along the line with your son that people recognize the talent that you bring to the table for training, and to have your son a great 145-pound junior Olympian. Boy, that's a great defeat, man.
Thank
And
you.
look, I'm going to give you from my training experience over 50 years, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to drop this on you and your mother. Just keep working fundamentals, and it ain't nothing slick. Slick is working the fundamentals over and over again. Where you're on the top or on the bottom, it's fundamentals, and here's why. It has to deal with coordination.
Mm-hmm.
It starts the link in the system is your eyes. Your eyes tell you how fast or how slow to react or contract the muscle, and that happens simultaneously. So how
Right.
you improve on coordination and style is from repeatedly doing and repeating the same motion over and over and over again. So you'll have split second timing where your eyes can catch up with it, where punches come at milliseconds. You can offensive punch or defensive punch simultaneously, and it appears and it seems that your mother has you working on those type of skills when she said she works fundamentals. So when guys try to come to a great fighter and say, "Oh man, you got to do this. This is slick." Nah, all you got to do is keep doing the things that you're doing right, is fundamentals, and repeating that motion over and over again. So it's split second time, and you can do it in your sleep. All right, Javier, that's something special I wanted to give you to you. And your mother
Thank,
got you
Thank you.
pinpoint in your training and all of that, man. Is there something that you want to say to your fans and to the boxing community? Because we're going all around the world here.
hmm uh, I just want to tell my fans, thank you for supporting me. Thank you for being there for me. For the people out there that I possibly have to fight, just stay ready for me. That's all. So.
How about you, Deborah? Is something you want to say to the boxing fans and boxing community around?
Um, I get a lot of support as well, so I thank coaches. I got so many coaches from all over the United States who support me, especially like you said, being a woman in the sport can be a little difficult, but I get advice from so many people from Ohio to Pennsylvania to DC, here home. So I thank you all for all the support. Um, Munoz, TJ, Kenny, all these coaches, Jimenez, that helped tremendously. So I want to thank them, and and like he said, we're always working and we're staying ready. So for the competition, stay ready.
That's the key.
Hmm.
Don't when you're in shape, stay in shape, and you'll get in shape to get in shape, and that's a part of being great. And don't never get out of shape because you never know when a telephone call you'll get it,
Oh,
and you can rise to the occasion.
that's
You're
Yes.
true.
absolutely right, Deborah. Hey, look, we want to thank both of y'all, uh,
Thank
um, Javier Mitchell and Deborah, his mother, trainer, for coming on the World Boxing Review. And we'll have you on again as you keep progressing in this great career that you have, Javier Mitchell, man. Congratulations again.
Thank.
And those who are just tuning in for this next segment, we're going to have go over a profile of the Rocky Marciano, who was a great heavyweight champion. And you too, if you want to stay on, Deborah and Javier, and listen to it, you can. Uh, Mark,
Yes.
there's some great things happening in heavyweight news, like last night, Dante Wilder, who's a former heavyweight champion, he's back on the winning track after getting beat over there in Wichita, Kansas. In the seventh round, he was able to pull out a stoppage in the 17th round over Hernandez. This is his first victory since 2022, and it's something to see. He may have not looked as he looked in the past, but a win is a win. And we're going to say there's some big names that he has. He has a multi-fight deal in his second fight in 2025, uh, probably going to be outside of the United States against some of the big names also in boxing in that heavyweight division, such as Anthony Joshua or the winner of Usyk and Dubois. That's in 3 weeks in Wembley Stadium, and that will be live on the Zone. So, man, look, man, what does it look like, you know, going back in time here to the great Rocky Marciano, Mark?
Well, I think it was, I think it's a good example of how things have changed, but yeah, how things have stayed the same too. It's boxing is still boxing. We talk about Rocky Marciano, actually had a pretty, he had a late amateur career because he didn't have anywhere near the amateur experience that Javier had or that even Theo had. Honestly, it's debatable how many amateur fights he actually had, but the general consensus is he had about 12. And most sources say that his record was 8-4. The most notable loss that he had was against Coley Wallace in New York City. And that one was somewhat controversial, but it was good for Mr. Wallace's career because he actually went on to have a pretty good pro career during the same time that Rocky was fighting, and he fought some good fighters. He was a good boxer himself. Actually, looked a lot like Joe Louis. And so he went in, he went into the pros. Rocky didn't really grow up loving boxing, though, was his primary thing. He really, baseball was his first love. And he was famous for in Brockton, Massachusetts, where he grew up. He spent a lot of time in the batting up at the plate, and the other kids would get a little upset because he was taking so much of the batting practice. And I kind of think even back then, you were going to tell Rocky Marciano not to that he had to get out of the batter's box. He said, "I got to get my licks in," and I think he did. And
overall, he was an athlete overall.
He was, yes, he was.
He also played football too.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
And what age did he turn? What age did he turn pro? I think 23, right?
Yeah, 23. 23, yep. And he did a term. He boxed a little in the Army too, and he served during World War II over in England. And he wasn't. He served over there, and then he came back to Massachusetts, and he wanted to take one more shot at baseball. So he had a tryout with the Cubs, and I believe one of the Carolinas, and they didn't sign him. And the interesting thing about that was he was a catcher, and they said his throwing arm, his throw on the like stolen base attempts wasn't strong enough. And
throw to second base.
That's kind of remarkable. The Brockton blockbuster, didn't have a strong throwing arm, so that is why he didn't make it to the majors. But he, so then after that failed tryout, he decided to turn his attention to boxing, and what a career he had. I as somebody, Dob and I, both USA boxing officials, but amateur boxing officials, he pulled kind of a stunt actually early on that before the aforementioned Wallace fight, Rocky had actually had a pro fight. He snuck one in there. He boxed under the name Rocky Mack in the fight, but it was in Holyoke, Massachusetts, and he fought a guy named Lee Epperson, who actually lasted 3 rounds with him, which was more than too many people were going to go in the immediate beginning of Rocky's career. But he did a pro fight, and then he went back to the amateurs and fought Wallace in an amateur fight in New York. So I guess his former chief of officials.
His real name, he wasn't born Rocky Marciano neither. Right?
It was Marcagiano. Yeah, it was. It's how you pronounced it. And basically, they just cut out it was Marciano. They just cut a few of the letters out there. He went by Marciano. He wasn't. The problem was, I guess, a lot of people, if you looked at it, you wouldn't necessarily derive Marcagiano from that spelling. So, a lot of things in promoting a career is publicity and everything. So they had to give him something a little easier to pronounce. So they went with Marciano, and they wanted to call him Rocky Mack, which is what he used in his first fight. He didn't like that at all because he definitely wasn't Irish. His wife was.
Yeah, he was Italian, and much like Javier Mitchell, his mother used to cook him some good Italian meals, as I heard. I mean, it kept him strong. What Rocky Marciano used to say in a lot of pictures that he had with his mother, him sitting at the dinner table and his mother feeding him that great Italian food. Man, what a blessing, right?
Right. Well, he said that he always felt that he got his strength from his mother. He said that many times, actually, that his dad was a shoemaker there in Brockton. They used to call Brockton the Shoe City. It was kind of like Rochester used to be the camera city, copiers, with Kodak and Xerox, and now those things have kind of gone by the wayside. And that's what's happened in Brockton too. I don't know if there's any shoe factories still in Brockton anymore, but at one time that was the industry there. So. And Rocky's dad was an immigrant, and he worked in the shoe factory. And it was kind of he was a World War I veteran. Rocky's dad was, and he was a very proud American. And he was, he believed America was the land of opportunity, and I think that carried with Rocky too. And when Rocky had his success, actually after he beat Joe Louis, he got his dad out of the shoe factory. He retired him then and said, you won't have to work at the machine anymore. And so that was, unfortunately, Rocky's untimely passed.
So when he began his professional career, right? When he began his professional career was 1947, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, officially. It came to light after the fact. He was still kind of trying to deny that first one in 47 because he was still fighting amateurs. But he then in July, mid-year of 1948, that's when he got really rolling with it. And had most of his fights in Providence, Rhode Island. And he had a few in D.C. too, but basically in that corridor, at New England. And Providence was a big boxing city at the time. So he had a lot of fights there. None of them against anybody that anybody would be too terribly familiar with. But he was rolling out quite a record. He had, he knocked out everybody his early fights, and then moved on. I'd say his first, he had a few. There was a guy, Don Mulgard, who was kind of a. Did we lose Aaron here?
I think so.
I don't know if I should go on or not. I guess I keep talking. I wanted to ask you. We're talking about Italian boxer Tommy Maggio. We honored him last year at the dinner. He gave him the scholarship, and he's going to school, and he's fighting tonight. Actually, he's fighting tonight in Hamburg.
Fighting tonight. He's been on the road. He fought twice in Buffalo and won. So Tommy.
Well, he lost one. He lost one at one of Terry Williams's shows. I didn't think he lost. It was a split decision. Yeah. Did you see that fight? Were you there for that?
I was there. There. Yeah. No, I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought he won that. I thought he's having a rematch tonight against that guy. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I hope he prevails. I think Tommy's a good. Yeah, he's a good kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's
very good kid.
Yes, he is.
Yes.
I think Aaron's coming back to us now.
Okay.
I see the swirl there. This modern technology does wonders, but it still hasn't all been totally worked out yet. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah, it's the stream went out. Javier knocked it out. He heated the airways up so great. He knocked the stream out, man. What a punch
knockout for Javier.
Yeah, but
well, anyway, Rocky met a guy named Don Mulgard, who actually did last the distance with him, and I don't think a lot's known about him, but he must have been one tough man, I think, to actually stand in there for 10 at that point with The Rock. And then he ran into another fella from Boston named Tiger Ted Lowry. And it was actually a pretty good fighter, kind of a journeyman, but he had a lot of fights. Lowry had close to 100 fights by the time he fought Rocky, and Rocky was still, he had around 10 or 12. And he took Rocky the distance. And there were some people, I've seen a local newspaper there in Providence actually thought that Lowry should have gotten that decision, but he didn't. And they had a rematch, and Rocky won by a bigger margin the second time. But he was another one. He was kind of, I think, in a way, he was kind of Marciano's Ken Norton. It was just a guy that Tiger Ted, had the style to give The Rock some trouble. And but just a couple of bends in the road. Rocky really came to national attention when he met a guy named Carmine Vingo, who was a really good fighter, and he'd actually had a few more fights than Rocky did at that time, and they met at MSG, and it was a pretty raging fight for a few rounds there until Rocky nailed him, and he hit that was in the 6th round, and Vingo hit his neck, the back of his head hit the floor pretty good, and he was severely hurt. I mean, he was never able to box again after that, and it was actually touch and go for a while there as to whether or not he was even going to live or not. And I think that had some effect on Rocky. I don't think it, I don't think it slowed him down that much, but I think in some of his fights after that, he was,
yeah,
he might have been a little afraid to open up on somebody.
Yeah, well, look, his first title shot came against Jersey Joe Walcott. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, I wanted to, but I think we'd really be remiss, don't you, if we didn't talk about his fight with a man that I have the clock of behind me there, Mr. Joe Louis. I would say that that was a huge fight. That was a huge fight. I think it was a turning point fight in boxing history, really. Lewis was actually a slight favorite going into that fight, and the whole country was watching. The fight was actually on television. It was on national TV. This was way before pay-per-view. And it had a national television audience, yet it's still sold out. It's still sold out MSG and the old MSG. And so every seat was full. And you can see, if you watch that fight carefully, if you look in the background, J. Edgar Hoover, that was then the head of the FBI, was sitting in the audience right up front. You can see him quite visibly there in the crowd. And Lewis had some moments in the fight. Lewis could still fight, but that ended up being Joe Lewis's last fight, which I think bothered Rocky somewhat, knocking out his hero, because Rocky really admired Joe Lewis, and I think
let's put it in content. Let's put it in content. Joe Lewis was one of the longest reigning heavyweight champions when it came to title defenses. His record still stands as today for the most successful title defenses in heavyweight boxing history. And also, he is on record as being the second African-American heavyweight champion after Jack Johnson. There was a 30-year gap in between that. So when Rocky Marciano beat Joe Lewis, he beat a great fighter. And also the next two guys that he fought, Jersey Joe Walcott and Ezric Charles, number 3 and number 4 African-American heavyweight champions. And boy, were those fights great, Mark.
Well, they sure were. They sure were.
And he fought some great fighters.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. The Jersey Joe Walcott fight really is one of the, I think everybody regards that as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, heavyweight fight of all time. That was in Philadelphia. And Marciano was actually an 8-5 favorite in that fight, which is unusual. Usually the sitting champ is the favorite, but Marciano was actually favored to take that. Well, Walcott didn't get the message at all. He went in there to win, and he did a little, trash talking's not new. It certainly didn't begin with Ali. There was some trash talking. Jersey Joe said that Rocky's an amateur. He says, take my name out of the record books if I don't beat him. And he later on admitted that was just a little hype for the gate. But Jersey Joe came right out, though. I don't think Marciano ever for a second thought he'd come right out at him. Well, he did. He not only came right out at him, but knocked him down. And Rocky had never hit the deck before, and he came right out in the first round and put him on the floor. And with a punch that frankly would have knocked out most guys, I think. And he was pretty well, Jersey Joe was pretty well having his way with him for 12 rounds. The 11th round, honestly, if you watch the 11th round of that fight, and you can watch it on YouTube. You watch the 11th round of that fight. I think today that fight would have been stopped, actually. Walcott was beating the tar out of him, actually, in that round. And Rocky was trying to, launch an offensive on him, and Walcott was just slipping everything. And it was actually one point, do you remember that? Jersey Joe actually started laughing a little bit. Or he kind of, let out like a little nervous laugh because Rocky wasn't able to land anything on him.
One thing about Rocky Marciano that sometimes they overlook is that quite a few fights that he knocked guys out were such as what you're talking about in this fight. He got knocked down, and because him being a well-conditioned fighter, he was able to persevere and keep on working and try to find an opening, and he did. With Walcott, that disfigured punch that Rocky Marciano hitting Walcott is a lifetime image. One of the great images of a great heavyweight title fight.
Really iconic.
A lot of guys in the sport of boxing, it's hard for them to come back when they're trailing. And Rocky Marciano was one of those type of heavyweight champions, is that he may take a licking and keep on ticking, but he was able to finish because he was in great shape and he was a good puncher and he could knock guys out. which evened the score
Well, I sure
when
did.
he was trailing on the cards. But go ahead, talk about
It
that.
sure did. Well, it sure did. Yeah, he Walcott, seemed to be cruising to victory by that point in the 13th round. And after the 12th, Marciano asked his trainer, Charlie Goldman. He says, "How am I doing?" And Goldman says, "Bad. You're losing. You're going to lose the fight unless you knock him out." And he told him that. And Walcott was a moment he stopped backwards and he stopped into the ropes and he came forward. Well, that was Rocky saw the opening there and big mistake, and it was a right hook, which is not it was just a beauty of a right hook that landed on Jersey Joe's jaw, and it was over. I mean, you again today, the EMTs, you watch that back then, the referee counted on him the full 10, and he could have probably counted 500. It wouldn't have really made much difference. And he just was, he had one arm was kind of draped over the ropes that was kind of like holding him, coming down on his face. And after the count, the referee just kind of helps him, kind of pulls him off the ropes and lays him down on the floor. Today, again, the EMTs would be in there. He would have been on a stretcher before the referee would have even gotten to 10, probably. I mean, he was not cold. There was no question about it.
He was. And another great fighter that he fought, the great Archie Moore, that Rocky Marciano fought. Archie Moore, that was a phenomenal fight.
That was an excellent fight. That was Rocky's last fight, and Archie had kind of went on a publicity campaign to get that fight because he was light heavyweight champ. He was light heavyweight champ, and historically, light heavyweights haven't done real well, in heavyweight championship bouts. But he posted some pictures where he had a mask or a badge on, and he was like wanted, Rocky Marciano, and he went after it. So the powers that be there put Archie into a match against Nino Valdez, who was a very slick boxer. Also, was a Cuban and a big guy, very strong fighter, and very slick boxer. And Valdez was actually a slight favorite going into that fight, and Archie Moore beat him. Moore beat Nino Valdez, which then he couldn't be denied because Valdez had been the number one contender, and so that got Archie Moore a shot at it. It was Yankee Stadium, I believe, right? It was Yankee Stadium against Archie Moore, and in the fourth round, Moore knocked down Rocky. Also, that was only the second knockdown that Rocky had ever sustained, and he. Got up, Marciano got. There was a slight, Moore a lot of times on talk shows and whatnot. You'd see him. The referee, I believe it was Harry Kessler, was the referee in that fight, and he complained a little bit about it. I watch it and I don't see, me and Dob are both referees, and I thought his refereeing was pretty sound. Actually, I don't think there was really any problem with it. He thought he gave Rocky a little too much time to retire or to recover. But I don't really think so. I think that it was, and I think Archie admired Rocky very much too. I think that I think it always bugged Moore actually that Rocky didn't get more credit for what he accomplished in there as far as the quality of the guys that he fought. I think that he brought up.
That's when, guys, there was one champion. The man fought the man that beat the man that fought the man that beat the man, and at this time period, Rocky Marciano was definitely the man. After turning pro in 1947, then fighting for the world championship against Jersey Joe Walcott in 1952, and then at the age of 29 against Walcott, winning that world title. He was just the absolute man, and then going on to defend that championship. What is it, 6 times, Mark?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He basically, it was taxes were, don't forget, this was right after World War II. Well, it's 10 years after World War II, but right after the Korean War as well. We had a Cold War going on. So taxes were really ridiculous in those days. And Rocky didn't, like most of us, he didn't really enjoy paying him too much. So he would fight twice a year once he had the title, because that was economically, that was just the only way that would work, because the taxes would be too high if you fought more than that. So, but I want to go back to something you said, though, about, you brought up the racial aspect of it. I would really say the Marciano the Marciano Championship was really the first equal opportunity, completely championship in boxing history in the heavyweight division. Really, if you look at it, because Joe Louis mainly fought other white fighters. He fought John Henry Lewis and he fought Jersey Joe Walcott, but all of his other opponents were Spanish or white. And he also,
He
during.
fought Essex Charles, dissimilar things in opponent. Joe Lewis fought Essex Charles in Jersey
Well, that was
Joe
after.
Walcott, and he had
That was
a
after he
rough time
retired,
with both of them.
Yeah, well, that was after Lewis retired, though. He came back to fight Walcott.
Yeah.
Not Walcott, excuse me, Charles. Excuse me. He fought the Essex Charles fight after he'd retired, and Charles was the alphabet champion at the time. But anyway, the Marciano term, really was his first defense was against, his first defense was against Jersey Joe Walcott, a rematch that didn't go too well for Jersey Joe. But then he fought Roland Lastarza, who gave him probably the closest that Marciano came to losing a fight. He lost to Rocky in a split decision, which was Marciano's first televised fight. And a lot of the viewers had thought that Lastarza won that. There was a lot of controversy about it. Marciano had a knockdown in it, in the fight, and that seemed to carry most of the weight in the decision. And so he had to fight Lastarza. He had to give him a rematch, and it was a good fight for 7-8 rounds. Then Marciano kind of went to town on him and took him out in the 10th. And then he went in against Desert Charles the first time, and that was a beauty. Boy, that was an excellent fight. There was a few people that thought that Charles actually won that. Joe Louis was one of them. And there were a few others that did too. So it was a 15-round war anyway that Rocky did come out on top in. And then 4 months later, they met again. And that time, I'd say Rocky kind of erased most of the doubt, really, as to who the better man was at the time. He pretty much dominated the action, but there was a big but in that, and that was Rocky had a terrible cut on his nose. He nobody knows exactly how it formed, but he actually like pared his nose, literally. He kind of split it right in half. And so he was in some danger of being stopped. It's in somewhat danger of a stoppage. So again, the referee told him, that I'm going to have to stop this. Get him. And Rocky took the cue and knocked him out in the 8th. And he actually knocked him down once. He got back. Charles got back up, and he went down again. And he didn't want to get up the second time. I think he realized, that was all the fighting he needed to do that evening. But Desert Charles was a great fighter, though. Really, I'd say pound for pound, one of the all-time greats. He eyebrow rates him in the top 20 at middleweight, first at light heavyweight, and top 20 at heavyweight as well. So I think that's shows what a remarkable fighter Desert Charles was. And then Rocky
And Rocky, after these title defenses, he retired in 1956 at the age of 32 years old.
Yes, he did. He before that, the Moore fight that we just talked about was his last fight. He also, in between there, he fought a guy named Don Cackel from England, and Cackel was another one that kind of, he didn't look like he was really in phenomenal shape, but really he was a blown up middleweight and a very tough man. He actually, I think he gave Rocky a little more of a fight than he was anticipating. And that was in the old Kezar Stadium in San Francisco, where the 49ers used to play. And it went 9 rounds. A lot of the British press complained a great deal about it, because I got to say, the referee kind of let Rocky get away with it awful lot that they're not used to in England. He one time when he knocked him down, Cackel went down flat on his spot, like in a sitting position. And Rocky just gave him a shot in the side of his head when he was seated. And I've talked to, in Canastota, some of the British that come over, I've heard a few of them still complain about that one. To them, in America, we're kind of used to that kind of thing. We see it, it's not how it should be, but it happens. And the British kind of took a more dim view of that. I think if you look through the years, they had a lot more disqualifications, over in England than we had here.
Yeah. Well, Mark, it's almost getting to that time. And in closing, like I said, his retirement happened in 1956 at the age of 32. And shortly after that, something happened to him. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, he lived a kind of an interesting life. He after he retired, he said that he retired to spend more time with his family. Well, he moved down to Florida, but he didn't really spend a lot of time with his family. In all honesty, he he kind of traded on his celebrity and did various things. He did various things. He did a lot of announcing. He was the color man on the ABC radio broadcast of the Ali Liston fight, in fact, with Howard Cosell. And he also, for a little while, he had a little talk show on television. It was called The Main Event. And he had some really remarkable, ESPN's shown those, and I think you can see him on YouTube. He had some very good guests on there. He had Sammy Davis Jr. and Jackie Gleason, Nat King Cole, so were all big names at the time. And they all appeared and talked boxing with him a little. Zsa Zsa Gabor, I remember, and those shows you can watch them. But he, during some of his traveling, did we lose the other two left us? Okay, well,
yeah, those days of retirement, the TV shows and all that. In camp with one of the greatest of all time, Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad Ali had a great relationship as he was retired. He came in Muhammad Ali's training camp with Joe Louis, and they spent time, and him and Ali would talk and swap it up about styles. And, he'd tell Ali what he would do to him, and Ali would tell him what he would do to him. And they did a mock fight
yes,
with Muhammad Ali and Rocky Marciano.
Well, I got a little background to that. In the late 60s, 69, there was a promoter out of Florida named Murray Warner who did this. I don't know, he somehow got a computer, and he had this idea of doing an all-time championship on with the results fed by a computer. And they got, I think it was Les Kiter. Yeah, it was Les Kiter was the announcer. So they used to run them on the radio throughout the 60s, this all-time championship. And they'd have like Max Baer against somebody more modern, I think Max Baer was against Jess Willard, actually. Well, they put a lot of the notable heavyweight champions into a thing. Well, on the radio version of it, they had Ali losing to Jim Jeffries. And Muhammad wasn't very happy about that at all. And he actually threatened to sue. He got the lawyer. He felt like he was defamed by that. And so Mr. Warner talked to him about it. And he said an idea hatched in his brain. He says, well, how'd you, because the winner of it in the computer tournament on the radio was Marciano against Jack Dempsey. And he said, well, how'd you like to fight the winner? Really? And it was, Ali wasn't able to fight at the time, and he was suspended during the whole Vietnam business. And Marciano had gotten quite out of shape, and so he kind of welcomed the opportunity, I think, to get back into some semblance of his old condition. And he actually did train pretty hard for it. Marciano did, and they actually fought 100 1-minute rounds. And they would do 1 minute at a time. And from most accounts I hear, it was kind of the level of gym sparring, that they did with each other. It always kind of looked to me like Muhammad was kind of Rocky was quite a bit older, and I understand he knocked his toupee off a couple of times and whatnot. But they pieced it all together anyway and made it into a somewhat realistic looking fight. And for closed circuit audiences around the country. So they showed it all at they showed it all the same evening so that everybody would be getting the result at the same time. And in some cities, they actually ran regular boxing cards. They would actually do a boxing card, and then they showed it on the big screen. And in the American version, Rocky, it was kind of a replay of the Jersey Joe Walcott fight. Ali was leading, and Rocky won by a knockout in the 13th. And but the European audiences weren't. Ali stopped Marciano on cuts in the European version, which I saw for the first time just in the last couple of years. I don't think a lot of films of that ever got out there. And you see that, the referee. Actually, I think the Marciano people would have had a little complaint about the referee, since it was your old friend Vince Dundee. Was Angelo Dundee's brother was the referee in that, and
Yeah,
Chris, you're right, Chris. I apologize. Yeah, Chris. There was a Vince Dundee too. You're right, Chris Dundee.
Yeah.
And you're right. And it was the referee in that. And his shirt stayed amazingly white, I thought. And he didn't have to break them too much either. So I think it was a pretty easy refereeing, Jeff. But he stopped on the European version. So but it's, I think you got to take it for what it is. It was an opportunity for both of them to make a little money. And Ali, I think he knew the way it was going down, because he watched it in Philadelphia, and he said out just before the American version, just before the referee was going to stop it. He said Rocky doesn't hit a man that many times, and he continues to fight. So I think he obviously he knew what was coming. But I don't know. I think if you take it as fun, it's a good thing. If you take it too seriously, I think it's kind of silly. It wasn't.
Yeah, well, it's coming that time in closing. August 31st, 1969, Rocky died in an airplane crash. How his life and career had ended, which is something that was a sad day.
Sure was.
He was a great heavyweight champion. Rocky Marciano is the only heavyweight champion to remain undefeated with 49 wins and 43 by the way of knockout, to leave him one of boxing all-time great heavyweight champion.
Absolutely, he was. He's still Eyebrow still puts him in the all-time top 10. That's which says a lot, actually, if you think how much boxing's taking place since he fought. I think he certainly deserves that. I think it's always fun to speculate how he would have done against some of the other fighters. But he was, one thing about Marciano, he was a very fan-friendly man. He was very proud of the fact that he never turned down an autograph. There's an old clipping of him, or not, film clip of him. He's standing next to a car, and some guy hands him a stack of pictures. Hands him a stack of pictures.
As we get ready to close, Mark,
okay.
Marciano, ring champion. He had held the ring belt. You have some magazines with him on the cover. We'll talk about that. We have a few minutes left on the show.
Here's one. They definitely did art style. That's what happened with his trainer, Charlie Goldman, and it was there. That was actually drawn by Stanley Weston, who's in the Boxing Hall of Fame. This was one here from 1955, before his fight with Don Cackel. And there you go. You can see it, the American flag versus the British flag.
Mm-hmm.
There was one actually after the Cackel fight and before the Moore fight. It says, "What's next for Rocky?" And that one, let's see, that one there used a photograph on it. Here's a couple of his ones against Ezra Charles. This is a very nice cover. That's modeled after a photograph by most of us have seen of Marciano and Charles.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see what else we got here. This one here is this one I was talking about. This was a lead up to to the Marciano and Charles fight. And this was right after. This is I think this is a lot of people's favorite. This was the one that right after Rocky beat Jersey Joe Walcott for the title. And it shows him kind of staying in the shadow of Jack Dempsey, and it said Rocky another Dempsey. So, and the top up here says new Mauler champion. So, I think there is some comparisons between Marciano and Dempsey. I think in some ways there was some differences too. But it's always, people have always speculated about it. I guess we can't miss this one. This was him against Walcott, landing on Walcott. That was an artist's conception of it.
Well, Mark, it's great to see those old Ring magazines coming in, and Ring magazine is back in publication with Turk Al-Sheikh, who is the new owner of Ring magazine. He has them out in different newsstands around, so you can look for the new Rep magazine. I think the one that's published now has George Foreman on the cover. And you can find that on there. But thank you so much for profiling Rocky Marciano, one of the great heavyweight champions of the world. Mark Irwin is vice president of the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame and vice president of the Buffalo Hall of Fame. And we wanted to also thank our two guests that were on, a mother-son team, Javier Mitchell and his mother, Deborah, who's also his trainer, was something unique. And it was great talking to them this morning, fresh off a junior Olympic win. And boy, do we like it. This is the second year in a row in two weight classes, 138 and 145, man, to be an outstanding junior Olympian and a national champion. And also, he's getting an award from the Rochester Boxing Hall of Fame as Amateur Boxer of the Year on September 20th in Rochester, New York, at the Brook House. We want to also thank Larry Lazardi, who's president, for getting them on the show today. And boy, was it something kind of special to hear their story, and also to hear about Rocky Marciano.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. He's Deb. Yeah, I worked with Deb a little bit. She did some officiating as well. And Javier's a really good kid. He's a really good kid. Very pleased that we're honoring him this year as Amateur Boxer of the Year. I hope it speaks well for the state of boxing in Rochester, and I hope that it continues. That we keep getting, because we've honored some people that, as I mentioned, Push Up Frazier, who was a pretty successful pro.
Yeah.
So.
We want to thank them for coming in on today's show, and thank you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
In closing, we want to thank you for tuning in to the World Boxing Review radio show. My name is Aaron Snowell. They call me the Hall of Fame trainer of champion. Now we travel the world for past, present, and future stars. Thank you for tuning in.